Today we are looking at the problem of the growing unpopularity of the European Union. In modern Europe, it is all too easy to forget the realities of war and how the European Union has allowed the nations of Western Europe to consign centuries of European wars to the past. It is less than 70 years ago that Henry Miller described his first impressions on visiting Paris in late 1948. And it is, I believe, worth quoting what he wrote. The sun never seemed to rise over Paris. In the streets, no man seemed to have a matching jacket and trousers, with people hanging from buses that stank. I felt that the country seemed like a wounded animal that would never rise to its feet again. France was finished. That description certainly does not look like the vibrant, rich Paris we know today. So what exactly is the European Union, and how is the process of European integration, which has created peace in place of war, and which has led to the creation of the world's wealthiest trading area, increasingly being perceived as a nightmare for its citizens? First, let's look at the history of the European Union. The European Union began with one simple aim: to prevent war between France and Germany and their allies. Initially, it sought to achieve this aim by placing the coal and steel industries of France, Germany, Italy, and the Benelux countries of Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg under common control, creating the European Coal and Steel Community in 1952. Later, when attempts at greater political union failed, for example the project to create the European Army, it was decided to concentrate European integration in the economic area. Thus, the European Economic Community was created in 1957. Since then, the Union has been primarily focused on economic integration, with more limited integration occurring in the areas of foreign policy and justice. Now let's look at the rejection of the European Union. That the British don't like the European Union is nothing new. However, dislike of the organisation seems to be becoming generalized throughout the Union, with the populations of both France and Germany increasingly unhappy. As both countries are traditionally the motor of the integration process, the opinion of the French and German people counts massively, as without Germany and France, there is probably no European Union. The French have never been as committed to Europe as we might think, and in reality have always had a love-hate relationship with the organisation. As early as the late 1960s, de Gaulle was pushing a nationalist agenda with his so-called empty chair policy. Later, the French just voted in favour of the Maastricht Treaty and rejected the proposed European constitution along with the Dutch. Recent research shows that perhaps as few as 40% of French people support the European Union, with 77% believing that European economic integration has made things worse for France. In reality, the European Union is being battered from all sides. On the right, the EU is criticised as an over-regulated bureaucracy that is undermining the competitiveness of its member states. Those on the left consider it and its single market to be a neoliberalist conspiracy and a stalking horse for the introduction of ultra-liberalist Anglo-Saxon policy. The euro crisis has only served to magnify these differences. To begin with, the euro is itself proof of European division and is an example of what is referred to as a two-speed Europe, as only some EU member states participated in its creation. Now the eurozone is in crisis, divided between the creditor member states that are in good economic condition and the heavily indebted debtor member states. Worryingly, France and Germany are lining up on either side of this divide. In France, the increasingly popular National Front wants to abandon the euro and its austerity programme and restrict free movement and the competition it promotes. In Germany, Europe's engine room, fatigue seems to be setting in, as pulling the European wagon is increasingly perceived as a thankless task. There has been a 32% drop in support for the EU since 2007, and Eurosceptic pro-austerity voices have gradually been getting louder. Germany's new Eurosceptic party, the Alternative für Deutschland, took nearly 5% of the vote in the last German election. Not bad for an extremist national party in a country that has eschewed extremist nationalist politics for decades. In the UK, the ruling Conservative Party wants to renegotiate the terms of European integration, threatening to leave if they do not get what they want. In Italy, Spain and Greece, anti-austerity Eurosceptic parties are on the rise. Indeed, the growth of nationalist parties throughout the EU and the role of the EU in that process must be worrying for an organisation, the primary function of which was to do away with nationalism and the jingoism it promotes. It seems the EU is promoting what it was established to prevent. We hope you enjoyed this discussion of the European Union.